Hi everyone, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to my rather sad looking vegetable garden. You can see a lot of plants are covered, and that's because we've been having crazy weather. Cooler temperatures and a ton of rain. As a matter of fact, I'm in between rainstorms right now, so I'm hoping I can get this video finished before it starts up again. So today's topic is floating row cover. You see a lot of it in the garden here. This is this white stuff. And I love it for two reasons. One is it's great for weather protection, and I'll explain that better in a moment, and also as an organic way to keep insects away from certain types of plants. So let me show you how it works. First of all, what is floating row cover and where do you get it? Well, this is a roll of some, and if I put my hand behind it, you can see it really is quite transparent. And it is a spun bonded fabric that lets air and sunlight and moisture through. So all of these plants are still getting watered with the rain, even though they have covers on them. Now you can find floating row cover at large well-stocked garden centers. Some of them will have a huge roll that's about 5 feet tall, and what you do is you buy it by the linear foot, so you just get what you need, which is great. Now I use it quite a lot, as you can see, and so I buy it in bulk online. But this is what it looks like, and I love this stuff. Here is an example of how we use the floating row cover, especially for frost protection. So this bed that you're looking at has hoops over it that we just have made from some old drip tubing that we had laying around. And then once the hoops were in place, we drape the floating row cover over the top of it. And you'll also notice some boards along the edge, and that's so it won't blow off. Now this is a lightweight floating row cover, and that's what you would most commonly use because it allows quite a lot of light to get through it, about 85%, and it works really well. And it will give you a few degrees of frost protection. Not a lot, but sometimes it's just the amount that you need. There is a heavier type of floating row cover called a frost blanket, and that only lets about 50% of the light through, but it will give more protection, and so you would use it just on a short-term basis because of that reduced amount of light that goes through the cloth. But I love floating row cover because it is very handy, especially for early and late season extension. I've temporarily lifted the cover on this bed because I wanted to explain the best use for floating row cover. In this bed, I'm growing broccoli and turnips, and both of these crops are members of the cabbage family. And as such, they are magnets for different kinds of insects, such as cabbage worms, cabbage loopers, diamondback moths, and aphids. Holy cow! And so the great thing is that none of the members of the cabbage family need to be pollinated by bees. And that means I can keep this bed covered for the entire season, other than to maybe do a quick check on how they're doing, maybe do a little weeding, or to harvest. And so that means floating row cover is an excellent tool because it's going to let sunlight through it, it's going to let moisture through it, yet it's going to act as a physical barrier to keep damaging insects away from those crops. Now I've lifted the cover on this other bed because I wanted to illustrate another reason why I use floating row cover, and it is for crops that will need pollination. So you're looking at some pumpkin seedlings, and for the first 2 or 3 weeks of their lives, I like to keep a cover over the bed to keep it nice and warm in there because they will grow like crazy and it works really well. But once they're getting ready to bloom, I take the cover off because I know those pollinators need to get in there. Well, that's all for now because there is a nasty looking cloud coming this way and I'm already feeling a few raindrops. But I did want to point out something. So these are our pole beans, and you can see they're coming along pretty well. I did start them out with a little bit of floating row cover wrapped around them to give them some warmth, and then I removed it. However, tomorrow night we might be getting down into the mid to upper 30s, and that makes me very nervous. So you better believe I'm going to be covering these again because I do not want to lose them. Okay, now you know what you need to know about floating row cover. I hope it was helpful. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you next week.